How's it going, everybody? This is Highsea with Toku-Rev, a video series to help you decide what tokusatsu shows are right for you. Today we'll be talking about the 21st series in the Kamen Rider franchise, Kamen Rider W. Welcome to Fudo, a peaceful, ecologically friendly city powered by windmills. Well, as peaceful as you can get in a city where monsters are running around, blowing things up and turning people into loose change. You see, Fudo has a dopant problem. Dopants are people who have developed an addiction to USB drives who love to scream their name out loud.
Joker! Money! Cyclone! T-Rex!
These are called Gaia memories. Gaia memories are memories of the Earth. After prolonged exposure, it corrupts the nature of the user, turning them into monstrosities that leave the Fudo Police Department powerless. This brings us to the Nairumi Detective Agency. Known for specializing in cases involving dopants, the lead detective and our main protagonist, Shotaro Hidari, the left hand of Kamen Rider and a self-proclaimed hard-boiled detective who's anything but. He wishes to emulate his mentor and former head of the detective agency, Sakachi. Shotaro blames himself for Sakachi's death after a case gone wrong. Unconvincingly, Shotaro acts the part of a 1930s noir detective, commonly ruminating his inner monologue out loud, striking dramatic poses, and telling anyone in earshot what it takes to make the tough decisions of a hard-boiled detective. With a love for all things retro, he's almost never seen without a waistcoat and a fedora hat, punctuating almost every episode with an inner monologue while typing on a mechanical typewriter. Shotaro's personality often conflicts with his desires. He wants to be tough and taken seriously, but in reality, he's open and emotional. He wants to believe there's good in everybody and struggles with any decision that involves turning his back on somebody to defeat them. His claim for being a rider is to punish anybody who would make his beloved city of Fuuto cry. Shotaro is a fun character, if not a little corny at times. His running gag is his hard-boiled persona, while he gets mocked at every turn. The other half of the detective agency is Philip. Serving as the right hand and right brain of Kamen Rider Double, Philip is a very different character. He's overly logical, and through most of the series, his origins are a mystery. Philip was rescued by Sakachi on the night of his death, leaving Shotaro with only one choice for escape, forming a bond with Philip and turning into Kamen Rider Double. Philip's mysterious past slowly unfolds over the course of the series. He possesses the ability to interface with the Gaia library, granting him full access to the Earth's knowledge and where all Gaia memories come from. You should think of the Gaia library as if it was a super Google. Shotaro and Philip plug in keywords, sift through the infinite archive, discovering information that helps them solve cases and defeat dopants. Together, Shotaro and Philip make a really compelling team. They emphasize what the other lacks. Shotaro is headstrong and often throws himself into danger. Philip helps hold him back and speak logic to him. When face-to-face with a dopant, they combine into Kamen Rider Double. Double is an interesting rider for the series since it combines both the consciousness of Shotaro and Philip. In order to transform, one of their bodies has to support the Henshin. Initiating a transformation involves one of them plugging their Gaia memory into their double driver. A second double driver belt will appear on the other, letting them know they need to insert their own Gaia memory so that the other can transform, leaving their unconscious body to fall to the ground. Shotaro and Philip both have their own distinct Gaia memory that they can transform into solo. Shotaro possesses the Joker memory, turning him into a purple rider, while Philip possesses Cyclone, turning him green. Their true power lies in being transformed together, so you rarely see them solo. They also rely on an assortment of secondary Gaia memories.
Luna! Hito! Metal! Toriga! Cyclone! Toriga!
Each combination changes the dynamics of how Double fights. When a new memory is inserted into the double driver, it changes that side of Double. When two memories are combined together, they create a new set of powers for Double to utilize. The Luna memory allows Double's arm to stretch like a whip. The Trigger memory gives Double a handgun to fire from. Combined together, it allows Double to fire bending projectiles. It's useful against foes that bob and weave and dodge attacks. Likewise, metal allows Double to resist firearms. When combined with heat, it provides a metal heated staff. fire shots when it's combined with trigger, and so on. Once a dopin has been weakened, Double needs to use a memory break, ejecting the Gaia memory and destroying it. I love the design of Double. It's sleek, functional, and it gives the viewer a lot of visual information to go off of. Each eye lights up to let you know which consciousness is talking, Philip or Shotaro. Having so many combined abilities keeps all of the action scenes in a constant state of flux, the action's always changing and moving. I both genuinely love and find it hysterical at the rapid succession of the Gaia memory screaming out its power. Of course, as the series goes on, Double comes up against more powerful foes, requiring him to have additional transformation, keeping the action scenes from getting stale or staying in the same routine. No matter how powerful Double gets, they can't do everything on their own, bringing us to their supporting cast members. First is our main female support, Akiko Namori, the estranged daughter of Sokichi, and now, to Shotaro's dismay, the owner and landlady of the detective agency. Akiko's main role is to boss Shotaro around while simultaneously being his personal assistant. Oh, and the comic relief, keeping anyone who might need it in line with a hearty smack from her green shoe. Like Shotaro, she has a big heart that often leads her into danger. She's not quite a damsel in distress, but also not usually capable of fully getting out of trouble on her own. She does contribute in an attempt to follow in her father's footsteps, often giving clues and hints that nobody seems to see when they're stuck on a case. As the only prominent female on the show, it would be nice if she had more of a character, but unfortunately, she's played up for laughs and mostly is just there to be a thorn in Shotaro's side.
Narumi Akiko. おやっさんの娘?
The detective agency is assisted in part by the Fudo Police. The senior detective Mikio, who is always seen accented with a back scratcher, has a history with Shotaro and often hands him cases to help solve. He doesn't seem to be aware of Shotaro, Philip, and Double's connection. He's portrayed as a righteous detective, but is gullible enough to find himself in hot water. Behind Mikio is almost always Shun. Shun and Shotaro don't exactly get along. Shun wants Shotaro to stay out of police business, and Shotaro just basically wants Shun to not be around. Shotaro also has a list of confidential informants he keeps around to help him solve cases. Some keep rumors out on Dopin, some just keep rumors. Most of these are one-note characters that are used for a giggle here and there, but outside of that don't have many developed character traits. While most of the Fudo Police Department is underskilled and underwhelming, there's one member who chooses to take Dopins on head first, bringing in Ryu. Coming a quarter of the way into the series, Ryu serves as our second rider. Tough as nails and overly serious, he's basically the opposite of Shotaro. In his eyes, if you do wrong, you deserve to be punished. With Ryu, there's no gray area. Good is good and bad is bad. There is no terms for redemption. Becoming Mikio and Shun's boss, he becomes head of the Fudo Police Department, Paranormal Investigation Division. First seen carrying the engine blade, a large sword that he can barely lift over his head, he fights Dopins head on, untransformed. Not taking kindly to anybody who questions him, Ryu's on a search to find out who murdered his family. Out of necessity, he teams up with Shotaro and Philip, heavily critical about how Shotaro deals with Dopins, emphasizing that he's the hard-boiled detective that Shotaro wishes he could be. Eventually, Ryu transforms in the Kamen Rider Accel. Unlike Double, I'm a little torn on Accel's outfit. Contrast to Double's sleek design, Accel's is bulky, has weird motorcycle accents with handlebars sticking out of his back. He revs his driver like a motorcycle. It all just rubs me the wrong way. Furthering the awkwardness, he bends over and turns his entire body into a motorcycle. With time, I got used to the design, but it did take a little while. Accel being a fan favorite, after the series, he got his own movie. So we know Double and Accel fight Dopins, but what are Dopins and where do they come from? The answer is the Sonozaki family and their organization known as Museum. Museum's goal is to gather data on Dopins and riders. They achieve this by selling Gaia memories to the highest bidder and giving them away to criminal enterprise. Using a driver will help you from the corruption of the Gaia memory. However, if you use a driver, your Gaia memory will not reach its full potential. This is why riders are able to use Gaia memories without any dramatic results, as well as members of the Sonozaki family. Throughout the series, you get to know members of the Sonozaki family, and further understand the goals and development of Museum. I won't go into the details here since I think that's better discovered by watching the show. The major through plot helps demystify both Philip and Museum. Let's talk about production. The aim of this series is as an introduction to people who might not be familiar with Tokusatsu TV shows. For a lot of people, the production is the hardest selling point. The biggest discouragement is probably the use of CG design. The computer graphic composites wane from, hey, yeah, this is passable, to, oh my god, this is a bad PS2 game. I have to constantly remind myself to just kinda go with it. When the computer aid is being used to help emphasize a live actor or a live prop, I find it effective, but when it's purely rendered CG graphics, it's a little hard on the eyes. That brings us to the monster design. The monster design is a bit of a mixed bag. The show starts off with a really compelling monster of magma. He seems powerful and intimidating and something that a costume superhero would be needed to deal with. But this is given way to the second creature you encounter, which is T-Rex, which is a T-Rex. It's unholy in how uninspired it is. And what makes it worse is when it turns into a fully rendered CG creature. This doesn't happen too often, but it is a big blow early in the show. Another dud comes a few episodes later in a Gaia memory called Money, which basically acts as a big lumpy piece of gold, or a change purse that turns people into money. Given I don't think the story of these episodes are that bad, but the monster does take you out of it a little bit. As the series progresses though, the monster design goes up and up. I love most of the Sonozaki family's transformations. I love a lot of their direct generals. All of that I am really engaged in, but there are a few duds along the way, but overall, I find them passable to absolutely in love. Action scenes. This is where the money's at. Overall, I really enjoy the action scenes. It does tend to lean into CG a little too much, as I've already covered. But when it leans on the physical one-on-one fights, it really excels, doing a great job of ramping up the tension as the fight goes. The use of the multiple memories in the Double driver makes it a frantic pace, keeping how Double fights interesting. Most of the time, memory switches are in rapid succession. The more times the announcer screams the memories' names, the more I find it simultaneously hilarious and awesome. When the fight sequences start getting a little stale by using the same powers over and over again, Double and Accel come up against a new foe, which means they have new powered abilities on their way, keeping the action fresh. The show's format follows a typical structure. Every other episode is a two-parter, giving a recap of what happens, whether it's a continuation or not. I watched this over the span of 2 months. The recaps really helped. Sometimes I would have to walk away after an episode, and I wouldn't remember what happened come a week later. It always starts off with a mystery. You want to know why this dopant exists and who's behind it. Sometimes the cases come from clients, and sometimes they're part of the through plot. But either way, there's always a mystery involved, pushing the noir overtones of the show. Even when episodes began with a plot that I didn't think I would be interested, by the end of the runtime, I was usually invested. It's a really entertaining show and is really inducive to binge watching. Complementing that is the music. I absolutely love the main theme. Every time it comes on, it gets me geared up and ready for the show, starting with a blues saxophone and transitioning into a pop rock ballad. It helps exemplify both the serious tone of the show and the silly nature that it has. So do I suggest this as a watch? If you don't have nostalgia for the Mighty Morphin days of TV past, then this is probably not a show that's going to drag you in. The place I struggle the most to accept this show is inside the comic relief, namely Akiko. I want to like her. I really, really do. But with the exception of a few character moments where she never gets to truly connect with her father, there just isn't any character. She's loud, abrasive, and annoying, and I can't help but feel like this would be a better show without her. Unfortunately, Shotaro really isn't that far behind her. He has his fair share of character development, and he really is the one true protagonist of the show. He's flawed and self-conscious. He's constantly worried people will never view him the same way they view his mentor. He battles with that, and I really appreciate it. But unfortunately, the way they display this is by him constantly making silly reactions. Unlike Akio, I could stomach his comic relief bits, and I even enjoyed it most of the time. But I definitely found myself wishing he was just a little bit more serious a little more often. Not a Ryu level of serious, because this is and should be a fun show, but I think a little more gravity to the character would have pushed it a little farther. If you're interested in tokusatsu shows, this is a really good one to get you started. And if you're already a fan, it's a highly suggested watch. Thank you for your time. This is Toku-Rev and I'm Highsea. Don't forget to join the crew by hitting the subscribe button and joining our adventures.